a little while ago, I made a video kind of saying that my pedal board is finished. And of course, as soon as you've done that, you're tempting fate, and you then think, right, I actually want to change up some things about this. So this is a video just looking at what I want to change and the rationale for it. And actually, most of this is going to be focused around changing out the Keeley Toneworkstation. This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses. Now this is the second Keeley Toneworkstation that I've had, and I think it's a pretty good pedal and probably ideal for some circumstances. But for me, and actually it was one of the more memorable times that I had someone come up and compliment me on my tone. I was using this into Mesa Boogie Nomad 45. What the Keeley Toneworkstation is essentially is a compressor. It's a blues breaker / katana. And then it's also a Keeley Red Dirt, which is of course a tube screamer. Now, the problems with that, I guess, let's just go into. Like, the compressor is pretty full on, like if you have it on a tool. So it's like not a subtle compressor, if you get what I mean, which is kind of a good thing, but I'm starting to think maybe there's a little bit too much compression for me. And I'm using it as an always on compressor, and I'm thinking, do I even really need that? So that's kind of one, 33% of the thing. The other thing is that the blues breaker side is actually, you have to push quite a lot of level, so it's kind of a quiet-ish drive there. However, I do really like the blues breaker side of things, so this is kind of taking me on to where I think I'm going to go with this. And then for me, the tube screamer, which is the Red Dirt side, just doesn't really seem to do much that I like in a live context. And I'm not sure why this is, because at home there are certain contexts where I really like a tube screamer, and it's, for instance, like into a Fender style amplifier, you know, that is a really recognizable and awesome sound, you know, taking something from that kind of scoop territory to a more singing kind of lead tone. Not loads of gain on a tube screamer is one point. The second point is that what it seems to do for me live is somewhat reminiscent of if you switch from your neck pickup to your bridge pickup, right? So if you're playing on a neck pickup live and you switch to your bridge on a normal Strat type guitar, what you'll notice is that it feels like kind of your feet have been taken out of you, so all of this low end kind of goes. Now this is kind of a feature of a tube screamer in a lot of contexts, so if you were using it to tighten up like a drive sound or something like that, or if you want to get a somewhat usable neck pickup tone, it's kind of useful that it kind of shaves off the bottom end a little bit. But in the context for me where I'm switching to a bridge pickup as well as then sometimes kicking on the tube screamer, it kind of just gets a little bit too thin. So tube screamer as a drive for my board I think is coming off. The 5-watt World Bus, this is a blues breaker on one side, Dumble ODS type on the other side, kind of tube screamer-esque but doesn't have some of those same issues. I'm using that more or less as like a lead boost type thing. And then we've got the Angry Driver, which is my rhythm tone. And then I've also got the switch pedal here that good buddy Chris bought. And that can switch it so that I can either have a blues driver here or the Marshall Governor style, which is the JHS Angry Charlie, right? The HX Stomp is going to remain on here, and this might also be another part of why the tube screamer doesn't work hugely well, because on here I'm running a Dumble clone, the Grammatico, into the front of house, and then also I split off and I have it in front of often a Matchless Lightning clone, the Rift, or whatever amp I've decided to take to the gig, or a Fender FR12. So that's going to remain the same. That runs my delays. These two drive pedals I'm happy with. The Keeley Toneworkstation as well. These foot switches are a little bit too close together. It's sometimes quite a hit and miss situation. What I'm thinking I'm going to put here instead, either the brown Carbon X or the brown Protein. And I'm thinking I'm going to try both at various points. The Carbon X really, I didn't think I was going to like as much as I do. But let's start with this. If you haven't seen the demo, I did a sponsored video with them. And yeah, it wasn't necessarily with it in mind that I'd ever switch to using these live. But now that I think about what this is doing on the board, in particular, that can come off, leaving a space for the Carbon X. And let's see whether this does positive things. I just don't know if I need a compressor necessarily, and I definitely don't want a tube screamer on the board as such. And the blues breaker is the one aspect of the Toneworkstation that I was a fan of, but I found like it didn't necessarily have quite enough level. So with the Carbon X, what I can have is two blues breakers. One I could have with a higher gain, and I've got a high cut on there if I want it. The other can be like a lower gain, but also I can stack them. So hopefully it'll be a pretty versatile little pedal, somewhat like the King of Tone. Let's see what it sounds like now. Okay, so here's the idea. We've got my clean. Probably a little bit too much gain on the amp there. I'm going to take the master up, gain down a bit. So yeah, we've got basically clean. Okay, then. I think be running actually like this, right? My lead tone. Or lighter lead tone. But that's basically there, the bus working as more or less like a tone shaper. And then the blues breaker, the Carbon X. I've got kind of two levels of gain here, right? But also I kind of like the clarity of it. Can cover like a lot of different. That's kind of the run through, right? I definitely don't think a compressor is needed. One thing that I'm thinking I might like to do is to have an expression pedal which adjusts the amount of delay and reverb. So I might try and figure that out in a way that is kind of flexible, just because there's sometimes when I'm playing in like a marquee where I think actually I'd like a bit more ambience and a bit more delay maybe on the kind of lead tones, whereas, you know, if I'm playing in like a more reverberating space, like a lot of stone walls, then the opposite is true. It's like I'd rather be a little drier in this situation. Let me know your thoughts. Actually, I'm really loving the way that Carbon X sounds in this rig, and yeah, so knocking the Keeley Toneworkstation off the board for a number of reasons as discussed. I think that's a good move, right? I might also try the Protein in this context, where I think the Nashville side might end up being like the drive tones. There's nothing on here in terms of modulation. That might be like a blind spot that I need to figure out a way to get covered. Maybe I should figure that out.